Hey Trio fam, it's Lori from Trio. So if you missed our Zoom room session today, we did have a mini workshop on self-care and COVID-19. So the presentation was really designed just to start some discussion and really just check in with students to see how you're doing and how you're dealing with your self-care and managing your self-care at this phase in the pandemic, which is really different for every city. Some cities are opening. I know Lawrence is. The restaurants are now open, so that may be different for your city or your reservation wherever you're at. But we just put together this presentation just to really bring up some thought-provoking points. We want you to be able to identify what it is that you're dealing with so you can use the coping tools that will also provide you to get you in a good routine or a good space of maintaining your self-care. So what is it that we're dealing with at this point? According to US News, 1 in 5 college students are reporting their mental health on a decline. They're dealing with a lot in association with this crisis: anxiety, depression, eating disorders, some PTSD maybe, and that's just kind of scratches the surface. So we've been through a lot of significant changes, especially moving from a face-to-face environment to an online environment. Some of those changes include social isolation, moving from a in-person classroom to online classes. And then there's some other factors that kind of layer into how that impacts your mental health, including some current events that have happened, some other crises, and perhaps maybe some unhealthy coping practices that we'll talk a little bit about and help you identify. So as far as the social isolation goes, physical contact is a big deal for a lot of people. I know I haven't been able to hug anyone for a really long time, and I'm really a hugger. So that can have a lot of impact on how you're feeling about yourself and your comfort level. And so those are some things to think about how not having that physical contact and what that means to you. We've also been separated from some cultural events. I know my tribe recently canceled a ceremony that we have every May. One of my other tribe canceled their big powwow that they have every May. Sweats, I mean, and even those students that are on the reservation, some of the tribal offices are closed, so you don't really get to have contact with your people. And that's really especially problematic for students who aren't in close proximity to their tribal people. And so that's a really big deal. And usually when you're on campus, that replaces or kind of fills that void of not being able to have contact with your culture and your ceremonies. So that's a big deal. And also we're missing milestones, birthday parties, weddings, and in some cases even funerals. And so that can be pretty devastating in a lot of different ways. A lot of students are dealing with boredom at this point. We've been in isolation now since spring break, so it's been a lot of days. So maybe you've watched everything on Netflix and you're done with it. You're bored with it. You play video games. You're a gamer, but you've beat every game that you enjoy playing. So just being bored gives you time to too much time on your hands, or forces you to kind of sit with thoughts that you don't really want to have. Some folks feel like their summer has just kind of been derailed, like internships being canceled. Maybe you had a job that you were going to be working at and now you can't do that. Travel plans, I know I've canceled 2 trips already, and so I'm really disappointed about that. And so we kind of have to figure out how we're going to move on from that change. Also, physical activity and eating habits is an issue. I know I've talked to a lot of students who have decreased their physical activity because they're not in close proximity to Thorpe, or their home gym is closed. And then the eating habits and sleeping habits have also been impacted. I know some days I can clean out the refrigerator and other days I just don't feel like eating at all. So it's kind of a yo-yo kind of a deal. And then I have talked to a lot of students who stay up really, really late at night and then sleep really late. And so it kind of throws off their sleeping schedule too, which is sleep is really important, especially when you're dealing with depression and anxiety. Um, so we've been in online classes now for an entire semester. So those of us or those students who are in summer school, um, you're still dealing with some things. There are still off-campus students and there's still students that are on campus. The off-campus students are probably dealing with some anxiety or maybe even a little bit of depression because they're not with their friends and they're not in their planned space. Your study space is different. Your schedule is different. You don't get to eat Curtis every day. Sorry. So you don't get to access the library, and that can be true for on-campus students too. On-campus students have been separated from their families for a while, so during that break time, they weren't able to go home and connect with their family for that 2-week space, and so they've been away from their homes for a really long time, and that can be detrimental to their self-care plan. I know that a lot of students have experienced communication problems getting a hold of advisors or professors. And hopefully, since we are moving from spring to summer, that those issues have been worked out. It's different when you have to communicate with people virtually versus being face-to-face. And a lot of folks don't learn that way, or they've had to adjust their learning style in order to be able to deal with that environment. So hopefully that adjustment has been seamless for this semester. However, you could be one of those students who say to yourself, well, I still have not really adjusted to this online environment, but I still need to take summer classes because of my academic journey and my degree plan. And so you're still struggling through that. Technical issues, if you have issues with computers or Blackboard or the student portal or accessing your email, those can bring on a layer of anxiety as well. And having access to support and resources. I mean, kind of back to that communication thing, students are so used to just popping into the Student Success Center or popping into the Trio lab, and you can't do that anymore. But those folks are still available on email. I know that we have a Zoom account that is available to connect with students at any time. So even if you want to talk about tutoring, or if you want to talk about your classes, you want me to edit a paper or Ron to edit a paper, just reach out to us. And so you still need to try to utilize those resources. So there's quite a list of other factors. We are dealing with some other crises at the same time as we are this pandemic, and it can be hugely impactful on how you manage your self-care. So a lot of college students use drugs and alcohol. And I don't, when I say that, I don't just mean your typical list of drugs and alcohol. So tobacco, I mean, anything that you don't use in moderation would be in that category. So, you can misuse prescription drugs, and you really have to be mindful of how you're using those things when you're in this space. When you're in a crisis mode, we tend to go overboard and not really be mindful of moderation and how we're using what we do in a normal situation. And so I just want you to think about that. I want you to think about if you're drinking or if you're smoking or whatever it is that you're doing, how is that playing out in your coursework, in your relationships with your family. And maybe it's not you, maybe it's a family member that you're watching or that you're having to deal with that is abusing drugs or alcohol. And so, you know, I just want you to think about it and think about how that's playing out and how you can better cope with that in terms of your self-care. Missing and murdered Indigenous women, that's been in the media. It was in the media a lot before the pandemic, and it's still at the forefront of Indigenous issues. And so we think about that. It's on our minds, especially Indigenous women, because sometimes we feel like there's a target on our backs. We worry about our sisters, our aunties, our mothers. And even though we're not out in the community as much, there are still tribal communities that have people that they care about that are missing. And so that is also on our minds. The care of our elders in our family, especially with COVID-19, how are they protecting themselves? Are they safe? If you're on campus, you may not be with your family members to monitor that. And so it can be stressful, and you're really thinking about it. We've had a lot of issues in the news lately about racism, about police violence, and those can be very triggering for Indigenous people, because if you haven't experienced it yourself, you probably have a family member that has experienced it. And we all are trying to manage and think about how we can support our Black Native students, our colleagues, and also our family members who are members of the Black community as well. And so that weighs pretty heavy, and it's kind of scary. It's really, really scary. And especially if it triggers an incident that you've had personal experience with. We don't talk much about suicide in Indian country, but we need to talk about it. If you're having suicidal thoughts as a result of all of these things that you're dealing with, and you're not able to manage your self-care, it's important to recognize when you feel like that you may harm yourself, and when and how important it is to reach out for help. Maybe it's not you. Maybe there's a family member or somebody on your res or in the dorm that may be dealing with some issues. So we're going to give you some tools that might help you deal with that as well. So here are some things that you can utilize to cope and make it a part of your self-care plan. For social isolation, it is so important at this time to still stay connected with people. Check in with your people regularly, whoever that may be, if it's family, if it's a pastor, if it is an elder, your tribal people, your tribal community, if it's folks at Haskell. Stay connected. Again, like I said, Ron and I and Yosh have our own Zoom account, so we can use that anytime if you just want to talk or chat, or you just need to have that human connection. But you really need to be intentional about those connections. You need to be prepared to share your feelings and share how you're feeling. And also be thinking about your fellow students or other family members that you need to check in on, and make sure that they're doing okay, and see if they need some human connection as well. So that's just some of the things that we continue to do as a community. We take care of each other, right? So that's really important. As far as being in online classes, hopefully, since you've been in classes in the spring and you're taking the summer courses, that you've already been through the adjustment period. But again, if you haven't, you can still procrastinate whether or not you are in an online environment or when you're face-to-face. So the best way to combat that is to have a set schedule and to follow it. You can lay out the best plans and have it in front of you and still not follow it. So you really have to also be intentional about that, and just follow the schedule, follow your schedule. Make sure you incorporate study time into your schedule too. That'll keep you on task and keep you motivated to finish your summer semester in the best way possible. You have to be proactive in communicating. You have to kind of take control of your own situations, especially since you're enrolling online yourself. and you're kind of managing your own time. So you need to be proactive in communicating and getting the information that you need for your online coursework. And that means reaching out to your professors and reaching out to your advisor or financial aid or to Ron and I. So make sure that you are letting us know what your needs are and how we can help you. Utilize your resources. We still have tutor.com. So make sure that you know how to sign in. If you don't, get a hold of us and let us know so we can help you with that. If that's not working for you, let us know so we can figure out another way that you can be tutored or receive tutoring during the summer session. Laura in the Haskell Success Center is still available. Please reach out to her if you would rather do that. She has also got a lot of information. Carlene Morris in Financial Aid is very good about answering emails, so please utilize your resources as much as possible in the online environment. So in terms of taking care of your mental health, we want you to use healthy coping mechanisms. And that means limiting your use of substances. And you're just going to have to self-monitor that, and also identifying what is a healthy moderation for yourself. I mean, you're an adult now and you're all adults now, so that should be something that you should have a handle on right away. You can try journaling and channel that anxiety through, or turn it into a positive mindset through journaling. You can use art, you can paint. A good use of space is to go outdoors. If you're on campus, go to the wetlands, try some meditation. I utilize meditation a lot. Even if you just sit in a quiet space for just 10 minutes out of your day, it can really set the tone for the rest of your day and help you stay focused. Use prayer, whatever it is that you use to get into a quiet space and get into a positive mindset is going to help you manage your self-care plan a lot easier. If you are dealing with some pretty heavy issues, it could be suicidal thoughts, domestic violence. You just need a professional. Do not hesitate to seek professional care. Ron and I can help you or help facilitate that. There's lots of people on campus that can help facilitate that, and we'll show you some resources for that in just a second. So here's a lot of resources. This video will be posted so you can kind of refer back. But this We Are Native website is a really cool resource. It's a comprehensive health resource for Native youth. The content is by Native youth. And so there's so many different topics that they cover. They have a video called Hey Auntie, and she talks about some really hard to talk about stuff regarding STDs, substance abuse, relationship advice. It's just all kinds of things encapsulated into one website. So it's a really, really good resource. Here's some links that will help you get to some free guided meditation. If you don't know how to meditate, this is a perfect place to go. Sometimes if you just hear that really low soothing voice and the native flute music in the back, or even some just really soothing music, again, just for maybe 10 minutes a day, it can really set the tone for your day. There's also some apps out there that you can download that are free, and there's a list of them here that you can go to. I didn't know that you could have Netflix parties, but you can. So even if you're tired of Netflix and that kind of plays into that boredom thing, there's some ways that you can get together and help you in isolation and get that human contact that you need by hosting a Netflix party. And then I also found this quarantine chat app. I don't know how some people feel about this because it kind of matches you with a quarantine stranger, but It might be a good way to make friends. I don't know, but you could try it out or just check it out. So here are some mental health resources that will get you connected with a professional. You can call Monica Jackson, whether you're on campus or off campus, and to get some help. Also at IHS here in Lawrence, you can contact on Ready or Reedy. If you are off campus at your home res, reach out to your IHS Behavioral Health Department and see if you can get some assistance there. If you don't have a behavioral health department at your IHS or on your res, you can call Headquarters Counseling Center. It's a 24-hour crisis counseling line. It's not just for crisis counseling. If you just need somebody to talk talk through a problem or how you're feeling, or just help identifying how you're feeling, this is a really, really good resource. I think they also have a chat line too, and so you can find out more about that with that phone number. If you're having suicidal thoughts, or if you think that you may harm yourself, please call the National Prevention Lifeline. Don't hesitate to call somebody. If you're not comfortable, call Ron or I or Yosh, text me. Everybody has my text. You can get at me on Facebook Messenger. I have students that get at me on Snapchat. I cannot provide professional help, but I will definitely help facilitate whatever your needs are in that realm. And so here's some articles that I pulled some information from for this presentation. If you want to go more in depth and read about them, those are also some resources for you. Again, this will be posted on our Trio Wix website under seminars. And if you want to do a deep dive or go back over some things, it'll be posted there for you. We'll also post a link on our Facebook page. So again, if you're not connected with us on Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter, please do so. You can get information there in real time. We've posted some updates to the online student resource page that will help you with fall enrollment and some other things that you might be dealing with. So make it easy on yourself. Don't make it hard. Don't just sit there and worry and not have information. So let us know what you need. Thanks. It was good to see everybody at the Zoom room. Check us out next week. We'll do it every Wednesday for the summer session. And I look forward to seeing you next week. We love you. We miss you. Bye.